environment.
The wild horse, free and untamed. To many, a living symbol of the American West. To others, a pathetic and costly pest. Though the majority of America's wild horses live in semi-desert wastelands, they can be found from the wind-swept Rocky Mountains to the sand-strewn islands off the Atlantic coast. Belonging to no one, not a part of our native wildlife, the wild horse has become ensnarled in a conflict of human values. Although it's not considered a native of modern North America, the horse did in fact evolve on this continent. Archaeologists have discovered fossil evidence that the modern horse originated here in the American West 1,000,000 years ago. At Pyramid Lake in the Nevada desert, digs have disclosed bones of the horse's evolutionary forebears dating back 50 million years. The horse flourished across the Americas and during the Ice Age migrated to Asia over the Bering Land Bridge. With the retreat of the ice sheets, the land bridge disappeared beneath the sea, separating the horse populations on both continents. Then, about 8,000 years ago, the horse suddenly vanished from this continent. We may never know for certain why. The descendants of those prehistoric horses, however, thrived in Asia and Europe. The most primitive horse alive today is Przewalski's wild horse, an endangered species so rare that few, if any, still roam their native range in Mongolia. Breeding herds have been established by the New York and San Diego zoos and the National Zoo in Washington. When the Spanish conquistadors came to the New World in force during the 16th century, they brought with them the sturdy barb horse, reintroducing the animal to its native land and to the Native Americans. Before the horse, the American Indians used dogs and their own backs for whatever transport they needed. But the advent of the horse improved the lifestyle of the Plains Indians dramatically. They became the masters of the buffalo ranges. They could now accumulate material wealth, and the horse itself became a measure of the new prosperity. The horse was not only food and transport, but a symbol of courage and daring, a tool of war. Though they may once have numbered in the millions, by the time America began opening up the West during the 1800s, the wild horses were already reduced in numbers by the encroachment of civilization. But still, they found places to survive, and a steady infusion of new blood from escaped domestic horses bolstered the bloodlines of the wild horses. Today, in the high country of Montana, a herd of wild Mustangs still runs free. Here in the Pryor Mountain Wild Horse Refuge, winter is harsh. The horses scratch out a meager existence, subsisting on what they can find beneath the snow. The long, lean season severely limits the number of horses that can feed on these wind-swept ridges of the Rockies. With winter's passing, the mountains turn green with life, and the horses suddenly find themselves in paradise. Located on the Montana-Wyoming border, the Pryor Mountain Wild Horse Refuge was the first such sanctuary set aside by the government specifically for wild horses. Horses gestate for 11 months and drop their foals in the spring. The foals stand within an hour of birth, and only a few hours later are able to keep up with their mothers. The Pryor Mountains provide only enough forage for about 120 horses. Bighorn sheep compete for these resources, but since some of the horses are rounded up each year to control the population, there is little danger of overgrazing the range. Conservationists have expressed concern that there may not be enough forage for both the horses and the wildlife. But so far, the refuge has provided enough for all. The horses on the refuge comprise only a tiny percentage of the nation's approximately 50,000 wild horses. Most of the rest live here, in the wide, dry spaces of the West. Unfortunately, a century of overgrazing by cattle has led to the degradation of much of this fragile rangeland. But wild horses have the ability to survive in this arid land long after it fails to support cattle. The lives of all the animals living in this semi-desert habitat, including today's wild mustangs, are governed by the availability of water. Small springs, some natural, some man-made, make survival possible for the roving bands of desert horses. Wild horses must travel widely to find enough forage in the scrubland. But they must always return to water, sometimes traveling many miles each day to do so. Horses are extremely social animals, and wild horses roam in small bands, each controlled by a dominant stallion. The mares in the group accept the protection of the stallion, and he jealously guards them from all interlopers. Several bands of wild horses may use a single water hole, which becomes the focus of social interaction between the bands. The stallions allow only one band to drink at a time, observing a first-come, first-served rule. Horses share the range with native wildlife, such as the pronghorn antelope. But because the two animals prefer different foods, they don't compete for graze. The wild horses can usually afford only one trip a day to the water hole, where they drink their fill of the precious liquid. The stallion establishes his dominance by threatening displays. Although the fighting between males is mostly display, in extreme cases the contests can be deadly. Usually, death has a less heroic cause. A collision with a truck led to the death of this stallion. His mares seemed puzzled, lost. Had their stallion been killed by a rival, the victor would immediately have taken charge of the band. But with no leader, the mares will scatter and be absorbed into other bands. Very little inbreeding occurs within a band. At about 2 years of age, as the young females reach sexual maturity, they wander away from their natal bands and are readily accepted into another group. When on the move, the stallion follows his harem to protect them and keep them underway. Since man eliminated the wolf from their range, America's wild horses have had almost nothing to fear from predators. But as the summer season wears on, even man-made water sources can run dry, and the desert takes its toll.
We will return to the natural world on the Discovery Channel.
Tales of nature, capturing wildlife at its most wild, exploring its diversity, and showing how animals interact with each other and with us. It's an all-new season this fall, only on the Discovery Channel.
At UPS, we've changed the look of the international delivery business. Because UPS now delivers to over 4 billion people in more than 180 countries worldwide. And because of our efficiency, we can deliver your international documents and packages for fewer francs, yen, or drachmas than other companies charge. An accomplishment we feel deserves a little flag waving. UPS. We run the tightest ship in the shipping business.
Bifocals? I'm gonna look just like my father. My grandfather. Wait, nobody'll notice the lines if I do some cool frames or something. This is not working.
For those who refuse to be seen in bifocals, we offer the perfect disguise. Verilux no-line bifocals. The vision you need, the look you want, none of the lines. Call for a Verilux professional near you.
When it came time to sell the car, I don't know why. I guess I was sort of torn. I mean, we'd been through a lot together. Still, I decided to run an ad with what I thought was a fair price. Next thing I know, I've got all these incredible offers. After a lot of thinking, I went with the lowest bid.
Thanks, Dad.
I see your printer here doesn't boast the HP LaserJet name. Did you ask for this?
No, I didn't. I assumed when I asked for a laser printer, I'd get a LaserJet.
Huh, have you spoken to management about this?
I am management.
Oh, so how did this happen?
Poor management, I guess.
Nah, probably just poor communication.
Yeah.
Maybe you ought to send yourself a memo.
Yeah, and I could make a point of specifying an HP LaserJet.
Yeah, don't mince words either. HP LaserJet printers. If it isn't a LaserJet, it's only a laser printer.
Real adventure. The Discovery Channel. It's your world.
On the next Archaeology, a great African culture and its most magnificent city. Neglected for centuries, victim of ignorance and racism. Now being examined with a new appreciation. What secrets will it reveal?
Hello, I'm John Rhys Davis. Join me as we uncover the secrets and buried mysteries of the past with the exclusive world premiere series, Archaeology. Monday night at 9 on the Learning Channel.
This is a man with a mission. Armed with only a camera, he will brave extreme cold, explore a remote, unknown land, to better understand a dangerous creature, to know a mysterious predator, to see the wolf up close, and hear the cry of the wild. A special 2-hour Discovery Sunday. Sunday, beginning at 9 Eastern, only on the Discovery Channel. We now return to the natural world on the Discovery Channel.
The most dependable sources of water are wells created by ranchers for their cattle. Though the western rangeland is largely publicly owned, for a minimal fee, ranchers can lease the public lands for their livestock. Today, more than 4 million cattle and sheep graze these lands, far too many to keep this habitat productive. Joe Fellini runs 2,000 head of cattle on a 400,000-acre family ranch in Nevada, consisting mostly of land leased from the government. He spends much of his time making water available for his livestock.
If you don't have the water, you don't control the land here. You have to have a sufficient amount of water. There couldn't be any existence of horses or cattle, either one. If you don't have the water, you don't have a ranch. The Department of Interior has a map of 1860 of this country, and it shows that there's a desert wasteland of no water, no grass, or no timber. It took my family over 100 years to find and develop the water at a cost of over $1 million. It come to the point where we was paying more to water horses than water our cattle.
The Fellini family's lease was signed by President Calvin Coolidge in 1923, and Joe Fellini's father built the first pipelines on the ranch, using wooden slats wrapped with steel wire. Today, Fellini's water system consists of more than 200 wells, reservoirs, troughs, and ditches, as well as 75 miles of pipe. By closing a water hole with fencing, Fellini can force his cattle to move from an overgrazed area to fresh forage at another water hole. But wild horses are not so easily discouraged and may kick their way through the fences to reach the vital water. Though the Bureau of Land Management, or BLM, has set a maximum limit on the number of horses that can roam Fellini's ranch, it is estimated that 3 times that number are actually there. Still, the law which prohibits killing wild horses also prohibits rounding them up for commercial sale. To ranchers like Joe Fellini, the range is meant for raising beef. The wild horse is considered a pest which competes with his cattle for valuable forage and precious water. Fellini says that he spends $120,000 a year bringing water to the desert, and that a large portion of it goes to watering horses. But the land that Fellini leases belongs to all Americans, and by law it must be managed to reflect our wishes. And one wish the people have made very clear through congressional action is that wild horses must have a place on the range. But the more water Fellini pumps for his cattle, the more wild horses converge on his ranch. It seems to be a never-ending cycle, with no solution in sight. The Bureau of Land Management, which has responsibility for the horses on public lands, insists that the population of horses in the wild has tripled since 1971. Though the basis for this figure is hotly contested, the BLM has decided that the best way to solve the problems of the ranchers is to round up the surplus horses. When bands are thrown together like this, stresses erupt among the stallions, who try their best to keep rival males away from their mares. Roundups such as this take place all over the West. But not too long ago, wild horses like these would have been sold at the slaughterhouse, a practice that some feared would threaten their very survival. The debate came to a head when Velma Johnston, known as Wild Horse Annie, lobbied for a law to protect the horses on public lands. In 1971, a law was passed, and given total protection, the horse population rose. But in Washington, the controversy over their numbers remains a hot topic. Larry John of the Wildlife Management Institute explains.
The horses in the western ranges pose a potential threat to wildlife because the horse populations have been given absolute protection since 1971. And in the absence of natural predators, those populations have increased, doubled, and even more substantially increased in the past. Therefore, to avoid competition with wildlife, degradation of range, it's essential that the horses be removed through the roundup process.
And so the roundup continues. Protection groups such as the American Horse Protection Association disagree with the BLM policy. Their general counsel, Russell Gasper, explains.
The question that the Bureau of Land Management has never answered is how 50,000 wild horses can contribute to so much overgrazing when there are 4 million cattle and sheep on the public lands and 1.5 million big game animals. 50,000 wild horses are an insignificant proportion of total consumption, and there is no way that their numbers need to be reduced by 2/3 to solve overgrazing problems on the public lands. But by removing wild horses so fast over the past 2 years, 31,000 horses in 2 years, BLM has created its own crisis, a crisis that's left it with 10,000 horses in holding corrals.
The future for these thousands of horses, penned up in giant holding facilities like this one in Lovelock, Nevada, is bleak. Here they wait, either to be transferred to private care or, more likely, to spend the rest of their lives locked in pens. The administration and management of a facility such as this is an expensive undertaking. It costs about $75 per month to maintain each horse, amounting to millions of dollars a year. Veterinary care for so many animals is a huge job. But wild horses do not make good patients. They must be tranquilized before they can be treated. Although it does not harm the horse, the drug acts quickly. Horses' hooves grow continuously, and because they are not worn down by the soft earth in the pens, they must be trimmed regularly. When performed by experienced farriers, this is no more painful than clipping your own toenails. In the few moments it takes to complete the job, the drug is worn off. The horse is unharmed. Each week, more and more horses arrive at the holding pens. Studies undertaken by the National Academy of Sciences agree with claims made by horse sympathizers that the 4 million cattle on the range, which provide only 3% of our beef, do far more damage than the wild horses. Meanwhile, as the debate rages, new foals are born to mares that were pregnant when captured. The fortunate foals will easily find adopted homes. But to most horses here, the holding facility carries a life sentence. To attempt to get some of the animals out of the holding pens and into private care, the government has launched an Adopt a Horse program. Because it controls most of the vast public lands which are home to the wild horse, the Bureau of Land Management is, in effect, the world's largest horse breeder. But the rate at which the BLM is removing wild horses from the range far outstrips the rate at which they can find homes for all these animals. Although potential adoptees are trucked to auditoriums throughout the country, only half of the horses removed from the range are lucky enough to find private homes.
We will return to the natural world. on the Discovery Channel.
This portion of Discovery is sponsored in part by Mercedes-Benz.
I saw those lights, and even though I was only 5, I knew something terrible had happened. First I saw the cars. They were, I don't know, mangled. My father told me not to look, but I had to. I remember seeing this little boy. We made eye contact. I could see the fear in his eyes. It's something I'll never forget. No, I don't drive a Mercedes to impress my friends.
Excuse me, the printer on your desk there, it's an HP LaserJet. Why?
Never really thought about it.
Well, look, somebody obviously thought about it. Somebody with a firm commitment to excellence, right?
Probably. Everyone here has an HP LaserJet printer.
And the fact that you don't think about your HP LaserJet kind of proves just how dependable it is, doesn't it?
That's a leading question. Are you an attorney?
Are you?
Yes. This is a law firm.
There you have it from an attorney at a leading law firm, HP LaserJet Printers. If it isn't a LaserJet, it's only a laser printer.
Walt Disney World invites you to be our guest. Call 407-W-Disney.
Are annual credit card fees sending you through the roof? Carry the card that charges no annual fee and stay on firm financial ground. It pays to discover.
When Jim Soames first hung out his shingle and Rose's Seafood saw her name in print, they made an important executive decision. The corporate card from American Express. And now that Bakery Corp has added more employees and Hengstenberg's has opened a second shop, they get all their expenses in one place. Keep on doing what you do best and let that corporate card do the rest. To your success.
Wednesday, whether lounging poolside or modeling the latest fashion, their pampered pooches running with a fast crowd. Discover a doggy dreamland when Mac and Muttley visit the Canine Spa. Then at 8:30, cute and cuddly, wet and pudgy, babies of all shapes and sizes, finding happy homes with foster moms. Visit orphan nurseries for all kinds when Loretta Swit hosts those incredible animals. Wednesday, beginning at 8 Eastern, only on the Discovery Channel.
This is a man with a mission. Armed with only a camera, he will brave extreme cold, explore a remote, unknown land, to better understand a dangerous creature, to know a mysterious predator, to see the wolf up close, and hear the cry of the wild. A special 2-hour Discovery Sunday. Sunday, beginning at 9 Eastern, only on the Discovery Channel. We now return to the natural world on the Discovery Channel.
Jim and Diane Clapp run their 5,500-acre wild horse sanctuary on funds collected from ordinary people who sponsor each horse with a monthly payment of $38. Half of the amount it costs to keep a horse at government facilities.
My husband and I were capturing horses for the Forest Service several years ago, and at the end of our first contract, they had to destroy some of the horses that couldn't be adopted. And that first year, it was 12 horses that were destroyed. The following year, there were over 80 horses that were going to be destroyed. These were 2- and 3-year-old mares. And we reasoned that it was just unacceptable for that to happen to those horses. So we decided to take all those horses ourselves.
The Clapps take photographs and make an inventory of each horse's identifying features to send to the animal sponsor.
It's really thrilling when the gates open and the horses are able to go out and just graze and be content again, doing what horses do naturally.
In eastern Oregon, a different approach is being tried. These wild horses exhibit what is thought to be the typical coloration of primitive, undomesticated wild horses. How these genetic traits suddenly reemerge thousands of years after having disappeared is a fascinating evolutionary puzzle. Ron Harding of the Bureau of Land Management first noticed the special horses in a roundup in 1977. He decided to try to improve the bloodline in Oregon's wild horses by returning animals with these traits to the wild, where hopefully they would interbreed with other wild stock. With a better lineage, he hoped horses on the range would be worth more and be more adoptable. So far, he's been proven right. These beautiful Oregon horses are adopted quickly, though Harding returns the very best to the wild herd. These horses bear the typical markings of the primeval wild horse: the zebra-striped legs, tufted black-pointed ears, and the dark dorsal stripe. All tags and collars are removed from the horses. From now on, they will be permanently identified by the Freeze brand on their upper neck. The horses are then driven out into the wild hills of eastern Oregon, where they will once again run free. In northeastern Wyoming, a long-term breeding project is still underway. In 1916, Bob Brislon homesteaded here and began searching the country for remnants of the original Spanish horses. Although Spanish blood in wild horses is very rare, Brislon managed to find some promising horses in wild herds, among Indian tribal herds, and with private breeders. These he brought back to his own ranch. This was the land where the horse first evolved, the land the horse was bred for, the grasslands of the American plains. Bob Brislon's son Emmett continues the work of breeding the true Spanish Mustang. To Emmett Brislon, raising Mustangs is much more than a business.
It's a great feeling when you saddle up and ride out there and look at them, especially in the spring when it's grasses are growing and seeing all them colts. You wonder what color colts you're gonna have, and birds are singing and the colts are playing, and dream about what they're gonna do and how they're gonna turn out. We're running about 10 or 11 stud bunches, I think, now. So we get quite a few colts. They seem to breed pretty good running natural that way.
In 1957, the Brislons founded the Spanish Mustang Registry, a non-profit organization dedicated to preserving the descendants of the pure Spanish Mustang in America. The Brislons do no selective breeding, allowing the horses to choose their own sexual partners. So far, around 1,000 Spanish Mustangs have been registered with the organization, and breeding Spanish Mustangs has become more and more profitable as horse owners come to recognize the worth of the hardy breed. Cowbirds also appreciate their worth. Hitching a ride on the horses' backs, they take advantage of the feast of insects stirred up by the animals. The Spanish Mustang recalls its ancestral barbed stock, small but sturdy with a short back. And like its Arabian ancestors, it lacks one vertebra. The Mustang, long derided as an inferior mutt of a horse, is showing its worth, both as a working horse and as a piece of living history.
I think the future is pretty good for the Mustangs. We put a lot of time in preserving them, and now we've kind of got to get out and use them a little bit and show what they can do. And a lot of people need to know what they can do, because a few old-timers, but they're gone.
The cooperation of man and horse is a team, centuries old, but a bond that still endures.
We will return to the natural world on the Discovery Channel.
This portion of Discovery is sponsored in part by UPS, guaranteed overnight delivery.
Every business morning, while the rest of the world is getting up, UPS is guaranteeing overnight delivery before 10:30 for far less than other companies charge. And every business morning, more people are waking up to that fact.
Good morning.
Good morning. When it came time to sell the car, I don't know why. I guess I was sort of torn. I mean, we'd been through a lot together. Still, I decided to run an ad with what I thought was a fair price. Next thing I know, I've got all these incredible offers. After a lot of thinking, I went with the lowest bid.
Thanks, Dad. Our wedded bliss could be over. All we have left are 2 NyQuil liquid caps of these other pills.
You take the liquid caps. You've got a big day tomorrow.
Why should you suffer? I'll take these.
But then you could still be up tonight with the sore throat and a cough, and you need the rest more than me. I insist.
The power of liquid medicine the way you want it. Vicks NyQuil liquid caps. The nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head fever so you can rest medicine.
I just hope my coughing doesn't keep you awake, riddled with guilt.
Disney World invites you to be our guest. Call 407-W-Disney.
Wednesday, whether lounging poolside or modeling the latest fashion, their pampered pooch is running with a fast crowd. Discover a doggy dreamland when Mac and Muttley visit the Canine Spa. Then at 8:30, cute and cuddly, wet and pudgy, babies of all shapes and sizes, finding happy homes with foster moms. Visit orphan nurseries for all kinds when Loretta Swit hosts those incredible animals. Wednesday, beginning at 8 Eastern, only on the Discovery Channel.
On the next Archaeology, a great African culture and its most magnificent city. Neglected for centuries, victim of ignorance and racism. Now being examined with a new appreciation. What secrets will it reveal?
Hello, I'm John Rhys Davis. Join me as we uncover the secrets and buried mysteries of the past with the exclusive world premiere series, Archaeology. Monday night at 9 on the Learning Channel.
This is a man with a mission. Armed with only a camera, he will brave extreme cold, explore a remote, unknown land, to better understand a dangerous creature, to know a mysterious predator, to see the wolf up close, and hear the cry of the wild. A special 2-hour Discovery Sunday. Sunday, beginning at 9 Eastern, only on the Discovery Channel. We now return to the natural world on the Discovery Channel.
In contrast to the wide-ranging western Mustangs are the ponies of Assateague Island off the coasts of Virginia and Maryland. No one is precisely sure how a herd of wild horses came to this island. Some say a Spanish ship carrying horses sank offshore, while others think escaped domestic animals founded the herd 300 years ago. Whatever the case, the Assateague pony is a true American wild horse and behaves accordingly. Centuries of living on a tiny sand island have favored small body size as an adaptive advantage. Here, the ponies have grown accustomed to a meager diet of brackish water and marsh grass. The cattle egret and the ponies live in close harmony. In summer, the horses are plagued by hordes of biting flies, which make tempting pickings for the birds. But typically, the cattle egrets benefit from the ponies just as cowbirds do from the horses out west, as beaters, which stir up insects as they graze. In the hottest summer months, when the insects make life unbearable for the horses, the ponies take refuge in the cool Atlantic waters. Each year, in the early morning hours of late July, the ponies become the object of a unique roundup. Roundup was launched in the late 18th century to protect the crops grown on the island. But today, Assateague is a national seashore, and the Roundup serves to maintain the population of the horses at around 150. The Chincoteague Volunteer Fire Company owns the horses, and each year, East Coast firemen are transformed into cowboys. The ponies, who by now are accustomed to the annual routine, plunge into the water with little hesitation, and a huge herd of tourists waits to welcome them. Across the channel, the horses parade through the streets of town to their destination, the auction ring. Foals are auctioned off at a going price of around $225, though the price occasionally climbs to over $1,000. The proceeds go to the support of one of the oddest and certainly one of the most fortunate volunteer fire departments in the country.
$250 bid came here. He said yes, and she said I don't know. 2 1/4, 2 1/2, 2 1/2, 75, 275. I got 2 1/2 down on the ground, 2 1/2, 75. Anybody want to get in? 2 1/2, 75, and we have. You got him right there. Hot dog. And all that kind of stuff. This is one that's old enough to wean, is borderline, ought to be supplemented for at least a week with some, It's very easy to use. Any of these, younger looking colts, and this colt.
Out west, the wild horse question remains unresolved. The American Indian and the wild horse have faced similar challenges, for the encroaching settlers determined that there was no room for either on a range dedicated to grazing cattle. Both Indian and horse survived, but just barely. As the white man appropriated the West for his own use, he forced the Plains Indians to abandon their nomadic way of life, a lifestyle which owed much to the wild horse, and confined them to reservations. In an ironic twist of fate, the same government that once discouraged the horse-dependent culture of the Indians now seeks their help in resolving the dilemma of the wild horse. The Cheyenne River Sioux in South Dakota now take unadopted wild horses and turn them loose on the grasslands of the reservation. Though the partnership of the Indians and the horse was relatively brief, it symbolized a great many things. Man's ability to coexist with nature if he so chooses, the beauty of mutual understanding and respect, and the wild joy of running free.
Is it possible to see into the future, to read minds, to transmit our thoughts telepathically? Scientists search for answers as they explore the mysterious world of psychic powers. Next on Discovery Showcase.
Budweiser Beers is proud of all the friendships they've helped make. So when they remind you to please use a designated driver, it's all in the name of friendship.
Friends know when to say when.
Does it feel like things are too much to handle? Like your life is just a lot of pain? Call the Boys Town National Hotline. They've helped hundreds of thousands of kids and parents. They know what to do to help you. Call toll-free, 1-800-448-3000.
It's an all-new season coming this fall, only on the Discovery Channel.
This is a man with a mission. Armed with only a camera, he will brave extreme cold, explore a remote, unknown land to better understand a dangerous group.